Hello, welcome back to another Godzilla Battle Line video. Today we're going to be doing our Season 18 tier list, and we do have a special guest, Comics. How's it going, Comics?
Going good, man. Appreciate you having me on. It should be fun.
Yeah, it is going to be fun. Comics is a player that I think is very good at this game. I wouldn't just ask any chump to do this tier list with me. In my opinion, he is easily, on my tier, if not better. So very excited to be doing this tier list with him, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right in with the first unit, Godzilla 89. Do you want to give your take on Godzilla 89 to start here?
Sure, man. Sure. So my opinion is GD9 is kind of flippy, but in my opinion, I'm going to go ahead and start out pretty rough. I'm going to go and give him a low B, in my opinion.
I agree.
Just because I'm only doing it just because I feel like he is way too easy to counter. I mean, yeah, he has one of the best hit points, one of the best damage outputs in the game, sure. But I feel like using Kamakuras, any type of something can just counter him. So you're spending 7 pretty much for nothing in a way. I mean, he's really good, don't get me wrong. I just feel like he's a little too easy to counter.
Definitely. He is pretty much, I say it a couple times in my tier list, a double-edged sword. He could be very strong, or he can pretty much lose you the game if you deploy him wrong. And it's just a little too risky, and I'm sure you agree, to be running on most teams.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so that pretty much sums up G89. He's been around for a while, so hasn't really been changed in any way. So it's pretty much how he rocks. Next, we got Mechagodzilla, who, yeah, Mechagodzilla. What do you think of this guy?
I mean, personally, I think he's one of those unique cards for me, especially for his cost. I feel like not the best, obviously, but he's also not the worst. I mean, I feel like he works as a personal little bodyguard if you use him right in certain scenarios. I mean, for example, especially Ultima, I feel like he would pair pretty good with him, especially since they travel together. I mean, I shout out my brother right there.
He likes to do that combo a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it works out for him. He showed me some, some pretty interesting things with Mechagodzilla. So he used to be a little, not believer, but he kind of turned me into a believer, to be honest.
Would you think he's more of a B tier pick?
I mean, personally, he's a high C, if anything.
Okay.
He's a high C.
Yeah. Personally, I just think Mechagodzilla is... he just doesn't do anything well enough to warrant a spot. Like, yeah, he can help you out. He's 4 cost. He's decently tanky. He hits decently, but at the end of the day, there's so many other units that could do it better, and there's nothing really vouching for him. I mean, Naranga is the same cost, a little bit worse stats, but I feel like Naranga himself would be a better unit to use over Mechagodzilla. What about you?
I mean, personally, I can agree with that. I can see where you're coming from with that. Because at least Naranga has a stun compared to Mechagodzilla. I see that. So, I mean, I could agree with that. I
mean, we just gotta hope for the Super Mechagodzilla, buffs to come along pretty soon. Garuda deploys on him. That'd be the dream, but...
no, 100%. Give him something over the top.
Yeah, you never know with Toho, though, so I guess we'll wait and see. Next, we got Showa Gigan, who, D tier, right?
Easily.
Yeah, he just can't do anything. This guy is just awful. I mean, if he could do anything with how he's built, it would be pretty busted, so...
It would. I mean, if you drop him to 4, I could definitely see more people using him. Like myself, I would definitely use him for 4. I mean, my Gigan's pretty high, so that'd be pretty interesting using him for 4.
Yeah, I mean, even 3, just give this guy, some kind of nod. He's been horrible since launch. He's not had a use whatsoever, so...
horrendous, man.
Yeah, pretty horrendous. Next, we're going to go on to Biolante. I don't rate the Larvas. I don't know how you would do your tier list, but I just include it with the character overall.
Oh, no, I agree. That makes sense like that.
And Biolante is something that I feel like is very underappreciated after time went on. She did get that nerf a little while back to her attack, but I still feel like she is a menace. What do you think about Biolante?
Ooh, that's one of those cards I feel like, man... was way too good to us, bro. That's easily S tier, honestly.
Right?
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Just because that, it's so cost efficient. You're spending 3, and that thing can take 3 hits from G9 at a certain point once you upgrade. It's just unbelievable how much, stat line it actually does for a 3 cost.
She's a menace, and the AoE circle she does is so unbelievably massive with the amount of damage she could be doing in the water that... honestly, her viability just knocks out so many ground teams. It's just really hard to run multiple ground units because they could just get hit by her so easily.
I agree, man.
Yeah, so that's an easy S tier from both of us, and I can't really argue otherwise. That's just a good unit. Next is Mothra. She did just get buffed, and I'm pretty interested to see what you think about her. I always had her around low B, around G89 range, but the buff obviously is going to help her out. What do you think?
I mean, personally, Mothra definitely needed something. I mean, it is nice to have damage. I've tried it out a little bit, but I'm going to be honest, I really wish the buff would have went to something towards like the evolution time, because evolution-wise, it still doesn't change the fact that you got to evolve it to get it up, which is still probably one of the hardest things in the game.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of like pisses me off a little bit is that Batra is obviously one of the best cards in the game, and that one is way easier to evolve compared to Mothra.
Agreed.
You're going to spend all your time trying to get Mothra up just for it to be an okay kind of unit compared to Batra, which is way easier to be the best unit in the game.
Yeah.
And,
they did buff her attack, but I feel like that was her best, that was her strong suit, was her attack. So just making it a little stronger doesn't help the flaws that she has, which you mentioned is the evolution time. And I don't know if you've used Mothra on Tokyo, but that shit sucks. Like, evolving her on Tokyo, oh my god. But even when you do get her up, her range is too low compared to the other really good flyers, and her health is lower, which means she's just getting killed before she can do that damage she needs to do.
Yeah.
I will say though, with Dimension Tide, and if you can get her on the leader, that is a lot of damage. She definitely has her uses, but it wouldn't be... I don't think this buff is anything that makes her like crazy strong. Would you still put her in B tier as of right now?
Honestly, I would. Like you said, it doesn't change any matchup differences. Like if Mothra's going against one-on-one against a Batra, she's still gonna lose it. So I mean, it doesn't really change that much.
I agree. It does raise her in the B tier a bit, like maybe a couple spots, but at the end of the day, her flaws are still very much visible. So B tier. Would you say over G89? I would say probably.
Yeah, I would too.
Okay. Next is, speak of the devil, Batra. Easy S tier?
Easily.
So there's a lot of controversy of who the actual best units in the game are. I'm still someone who thinks it's Batra, just hands down, just because of how much utility Batra provides while buffing himself and hitting super hard. Evolution's pretty easy in my opinion. Do you think Batra's the best unit in the game, or do you think there's another flyer out there that could be better?
I mean, personally, I'm going to lean towards Batra, but in my head, I'm still thinking it's Biolante. I mean, I understand Batra is a flyer, but Biolante, I'm still amazed by the stats it does just for a 3 cost, but I can easily see Batra.
I agree. Biolante is pretty much just in a Flyers meta, but just dominating. Like, if this game was ground meta, Biolante would easily have her own tier. She's just that good.
Yeah.
All right, next is Space Godzilla, another unit that got a buff. It was pretty small. I don't know the exact percentage, but Space Godzilla's attack was never really that high to begin with, so I do feel like it was a little better for the character than Mothra's, but like not by a lot. What do you think about Space Godzilla this season?
Personally, I feel like Space Godzilla is definitely one of those cards that can go either way. I feel like he can be pretty good, or he can be pretty annoying. I mean, I've never really used him personally, but playing against him a lot, I can say, like, if you don't have Hedora, or Biolante, it's definitely going to be pretty, like, tedious to deal with him. But, I mean, I think he's in a pretty good spot. Other than that, I mean, I think he's pretty strong.
So usually I put him, like, high B, low A. What is your take on that?
I was going to say a high B.
High B. Okay. I mean, he did just get buffed, and I put him low A last time, but at the end of the day, Biolante ruins this dude, and this is our co-tier list. I don't think like high B is very far off. Like I said, it's either low A or high B, so we'll go ahead and put him in the high B for this one, above Mothra for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's do next Hedora, which is what we just mentioned. Hedora is a interesting unit because she is a 3-star damage carry, and the AoE is really just what saves her. It's such a good AoE splash. It's pretty big. It's not massive, but it's big and it has range. And it's very counterable on things like Space Godzilla. Anything that wants to be a tank, it'll just splash off of them. And she has been rising in the meta since King Ghidorah has just kind of, fallen. And I'm sure you feel the same way, where you'd rather throw in 4-cost Hedora over a 7-cost Mecha King Ghidorah. So what do you rate Hedora this season?
I think Hedora is easily an A pick for sure.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't say top, but definitely like comfortably sitting in the middle.
Yeah, definitely a mid-A for sure.
She's definitely got a lot of help, being, the lack of AoE options, and then the poison cloud buff, which people did sleep on, but it does help a lot.
It adds up for sure. I mean, one thing I'll say about Hedora is that probably in the beginning of the game, I threw in Hedora in my decks, and I never swapped it out to this point. So a reason being for that is that Hedora always went to work. I mean, them buffing it definitely always helped. But I feel like it's probably one of the best cards in the game that are defensive-wise, to stop Batras, Leos, probably any flyers in the game, to be honest. I feel like Hedora's really good.
Yeah, I definitely deploy her. I don't use Hedora like a ton. She's usually not on my main teams, but whenever I like throw out the Kong team or have fun, I always have Hedora in there. And she does great as far as like just fighting Leo and letting the leader help. She's really good at just being able to help in general, offensively, defensively. She's a pretty solid unit.
Yeah, I can see that. That's good.
Next, we're going to do Mr. Anguirus. So I might be high on Anguirus. I love the dude. He's someone I use a lot. There's some people that just hate him and don't see the value in him. But I just think at least at level 30, 4,400 HP on a 4-cost tank. And he's a building staller. So he's a great thing to drop like first in a push. And you always want him out in front. What is your opinion on Mr. Anguirus?
So once again, me personally, I've never really used Anguirus, but I've played against him a bunch of times. But I can say, I mean, personally, I feel like he does his role very specifically and he does it well, just because of the amount of hit points he has on him. I mean, I'm not going to lie, any push he's in, it does take his sentry to wipe him out. So, I mean, that does stall for the other person. So, I mean, I feel like he's pretty good for that, let alone.
Do you think he's...
Just because of that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you should. I think Anguirus is one of the most slept on units. I was using him right when he got that 4-cost nerf. I just saw how tanky he was, and there's not many things in the game that are low cost with over 4k HP, which is just a huge sponge.
So that's definitely a steal, let alone, bro, for 4 cost.
Yeah, I love the dude, and you know, Anguirus is pretty iconic. He's not like the top echelon like Ghidorah and Mothra, but he's sitting comfortably with like the Gigan area, you know, like right behind.
Yeah, I agree.
So would you say A tier for Anguirus?
Honestly, I'm willing to do A tier. I'm willing to do it.
You'd rank Ghidorah higher, I'm guessing?
Personally, I would.
All right. I mean, I could see that. Anguirus at the end of the day isn't very offensive either. He's kind of just there to die for you. So you could say that Hedora definitely has the upper hand as far as dealing damage. Yeah, definitely. And the Dimension Tide combo adds to her whole kit. So I'm comfortable with that. Next, we're going to do Showa Rodan, which I think is just a hot, steaming pile of trash as far as like R rank up in the... I cannot find a use for this thing. I don't even try. It's just way too paper thin. What do you think? Have you found a use for Rodan? I know you've done things like Kong, Dorats, found some really cool combos. Have you found anything with this dude? He's horrible.
To be honest, I haven't. I mean, back then, I used to try a lot of my combos when I used to use Mogira and my Dorats, but I tried to squeeze it in there with Rodan, so I would do a play where I put Rodan in the back, kind of let them think I was doing something else, sneak a Mogira in the back, and Rodan would just connect for free damage, but that didn't last very long because Rodan would just go down in 2 seconds.
Right.
I kind of gave up on it, over-leveled my Rodan to 37, but, you know, that kind of bit me in the ass a little bit because all that gold went to nothing. But, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely put that in the D tier for sure. Definitely need some help.
I'm really happy you said D tier because I put him at like the bottom of C, but like that guy, I mean, and this is for high tier King of the Monsters. That's the only thing we play, so we can't really speak for, you know, what he does down below. I know people use Rodan a lot because he's one of the first pieces you get. He's one of the only flyers you get access to. So it might seem crazy at first, but man, this guy is arguably D tier. He's just horrible. I mean, you cannot use this guy and expect success with all these flyers running. There's so many better options.
Easily.
Over Gigan though, right?
Yeah,
definitely over Gigan. So next is Manila. So as far as Manila goes, I really feel like after the last nerf he got, it really sunk him to where I just think it's better to not run him. I feel like he doesn't contribute enough, even for 2 costs, to warrant a spot. What do you think about Manila?
Nah, I mean, I definitely agree with what you said about Manila. That buff definitely did ruin him, because before that, people definitely ran him a little more. But once that hit, you definitely started seeing a drop off of Manila's. I mean, his stun back then was pretty unique, because he kind of was the only card that had some type of ability to stun a character. But now, you know, he's kind of just there. I mean, sure, for 2 costs, but I feel like you said yourself, there's kind of no points really run him over other certain cards.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Manila is he is 2 costs, so I mean, it's not like a huge investment to drop him, but like at the same time, I feel like it's not contributing enough to be like warranting a spot. So it almost leads me to think he's like top of C area. Like it can't be that bad at 2 costs, but at the same time, it just doesn't do enough. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right for a C kind of pick. Just because he ain't in the deer up at echelon, just because he's not that bad, or there's no use for him. There's definitely still a use for him,
right?
But, you know, like you said, it's nothing like fancy. You know what you're getting out of him,
right? All right, next is kind of his yin to his yang is Kamakuras. I mean, anyone who's played this game for more than a couple days just knows how useful Kamakuras can be. I mean, it's arguable, if someone said it was S tier, I really wouldn't scoff at that. It honestly is such a useful unit to have. It almost just works with the game perfectly. Like, Kamakuras just fits into every deck. What do you think about Kamakuras?
Ooh, for that one, I almost wanted to say S tier, just because I'm thinking of the scenarios you can put it in. It literally almost stops any card in the game, to be honest. That thing is just in every card deck for a reason. It's too good. Just for the cost value of it, you get a lot out of it. So, I mean, I think almost S tier picks kind of on my mind, but I mean, I'm up for an A tier, like a high A for sure.
All right, I'm down for high A. That's usually where I rank it, but I mean, if someone said S, I honestly wouldn't like be that shocked. It is that useful. It's obviously not a carry like Batra is, but because it's so good at its job while being so cheap, it's just, you know, definitely deserves that high A tier placement.
Yeah.
Next is Kama Swarm. Now, Mike Pine, a friend of ours, loves these things and tries to get me to switch over to the Swarms and tries to influence me, and I do try it sometimes, and I just cannot get behind these things. I really can't. I just feel like this is what I say with Kama Swarm and Destroy Larva Swarm is they're like horrible on offense because you can stall on them super easily. And I know we're not in that Super X meta where Super X was in every deck, but a unit like Super X, a unit like Ultima that has range that can just snipe out those and stall on them is very dangerous to, you know, fight into. So I feel like what they provide for you on defense might be solid, but because like there's really no upside with them, I just can't really put them any higher than C tier. What do you think?
Personally, I think a C tier sounds about right, just because like you're saying yourself, for 5 cost energy, you're putting a lot on the field just for anything, them to get wiped out by an Ultraman, Dimension Time, Train Bomb, anything with AoE on in general.
And then you think
you
think of situations too, like where Ultraman can stall behind the leader and kill things, and while being full health and then fly out for offense later, like that's just such a better 5 cost investment.
Yeah.
So
I think it's pretty bad right now.
Would you say Kama Swarm is below Mechagodzilla? That's what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah, I'd be down to do that. Just because, I mean, I feel like the use of it's kind of, you know.
I mean, it's decent on defense, but just not enough to warrant a spot.
Yeah.
And then Biolante, I mean, yeah. King Caesar. Dude, I vouch for this guy. I think King Caesar is such an underrated unit. No one puts respect on this dude's name. I swear, this guy is just a pressure incarnate. Like, he just causes pressure. He either causes you to take damage or to over-deploy and just mess up your whole, like, pushing strategy. I don't know how much you've used King Caesar, but this was, like, a dude I rode it for a while, all the way to King of the Monsters, and I don't use him so much anymore because, you know, a lot of my 4-stars are getting up there. But I honestly don't feel like throwing in a level 30 King Caesar is that bad of an idea sometimes. I use him with my Kong team. He hits like an absolute truck. What do you think about this dude?
I mean, I think this guy's in a good spot for sure, especially with that latest buff with him charging like a frame faster and how he works. So the way I always thought about him is that he's the type of burn card you want to use. You definitely want to drop him on the field as much as you can, just because your opponent you're playing against always has to answer him in a certain way. Even though he is pretty easy to counter with putting Kamakuras in general, but they got to answer it by putting something down. So in a way, he kind of is a bait card. Like you said yourself, it definitely is a pressure card. I mean, I've been using this guy for a minute too. I mean, there's a reason for that, just because of how good he is. I mean, he's 4 cost, but for the type of damage he can input, it's definitely crazy for being a 2-star, I think.
Yeah, he's easily, like, him and Anguirus have really, like, I've never been, like, a huge fan of the character. I always liked them, but, like, I've used them so much in Godzilla Battle Line, it's definitely raised them, like, a tier in my Godzilla kaiju likeness. And I always call him Twisty Nipples when I was a kid, because in Final Wars he had like those twisty nipple designs, so kind of sad he doesn't have them in this game, but maybe we'll get twisty nipples in the future. But I definitely think King Caesar is... it's tough. I feel like he's still B tier because he does have counters, and it's tough. What would you rate King Caesar?
I think a high B as well, just because, like you said, he does have counters, but yet his role is pretty specific on what you're using him for. So I definitely think he's a high B.
Do you think he's better than Space Godzilla?
Ooh.
I would say no, right? I put him behind Space G.
Yeah, I would agree.
But better than Mothra, in my opinion.
Yeah, easily, because at least you can just deploy him.
Right, and then also with that you mentioned before, the charge time decreasing, it makes killing larvas easier because you don't have to deploy him so early, so it leaves like just less time to be countered, pretty much. Which is something I noticed. Next is, I'm not gonna rate King Ghidorah, we just go straight into Mecha King Ghidorah, and like we're just gonna evaluate them both as one character. But Mecha King Ghidorah is next. This is a unit that is my highest level unit. I think it could be level 30 if I wanted to drop the gold, but I honestly don't think it's worth it. And just for 7 cost, it just can't compete with 5 cost flyers. And the lower the cost your deck is, I'm sure as you know, is way better. Like even if you can have a nice team with Mecha King Ghidorah with a higher cost unit, it's usually not going to perform as well as a Mothra Leo built team, an Ultraman built team, things like that. So what is your opinion on Mecha King Ghidorah?
So the way I always looked at Mecha King Ghidorah in general is that I always thought it was a unique card just because you can never attack it head on. Even from any angle, you can never hit it without taking damage. Mm-hmm. I mean, I always thought that was pretty unique alone, but I do understand why it can be like ranked pretty low just because, like you said yourself, Leo, Batra's, everything pretty much on a one-on-one scenario is going to wipe him out. That does hurt him, even though his AoE is pretty strong, like paired with Dimension Tide or anything that will help him, but I don't think he's that strong at all. I think he's pretty mid. I just think it's a unique aspect that you can't really attack him head on. But
like, he's not bad. He can definitely carry. He can win games at 7 cost, but at the same time, it's like he should be doing that, at 7 cost. He is an evolution unit. He's 7 cost. He's easily one of the more expensive pieces in the game. And if you remember, which I'm sure you do, old King Ghidorah was a menace. That was easily an S tier unit for a long time.
Everybody ran him too. It's everywhere.
Now, I agree, Mecha King Ghidorah is mid. I would definitely say a B tier. He can do well for you. It's not like he's horrible. I don't think B tier is a horrible tier at all. It's just when you're comparing him to other carries, which is what he is, it's just not really worth it for 7 cost.
Nope. So it's definitely better than Mothra for sure.
I would say between Mothra and King Caesar sound good?
Yeah, I think right in the middle.
Okay. Now, next we got Destroy Larva Swarm. My opinion is I think these things are worse than the Kamakuras Swarm because there's less of them. I think the only thing that makes Kamakuras Swarm good is there's 7 of them. So you can... it's single target attackers. So single target attackers are going to take 7 to take out Kama Swarm, 5 to take out Destroy Larva Swarm. The only bonus they have is they could hit flyers, but I feel like it doesn't even really do well into most flyers. I really lean towards this thing being a D tier. What do you think about Destroy Larva Swarm as a whole?
Ooh, I think a D tier sounds just like that's the perfect home for it. I haven't really found a use for it. Anything you're using it for, you might as well use the Swarm, the Kamakuras Swarm. Mm-hmm. But I don't really see a use for Destroy Larva in general. If anything, Destroyah himself turns into the larva, so that's kind of, something to do. But I don't know. I think D's just about right, just because the use rate of it's kind of, not really anything you want to do.
Do you think it's better than Rodan 64?
I'm gonna say no on that, just because you can kind of combo Rodan with something. Right. Destroy Larva, he's kind of just just there.
Hey, I won't argue, man. D tier's D tier. Hey, whatever you think, man. Next is Dorats, which are something you have become a little bit famous for with that Dorat Kong combo. It's gotten me once or twice in the past where I'm just not expecting it. And I know people don't expect it because you wait to drop that Mogira and then you're like, ah, shit, I can't. Because when Dorats are coming, I'm just thinking my leader is just going to swipe them down. And you wait for that moment to send the Mog behind and then have Kong and Dorats just punch. And I think it's really cool because I don't really see people other than myself try and find new things. So That's what made me respect you as a player when I saw that for the first time. So what do you think about Dorats as a whole?
No, I'll start off with like, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no
but
worries.
I was gonna say, for Dorats, they're a little dear to my heart,
Mm-hmm.
So I really like them. I feel like they're a really good card for shutting down Leo specifically. With Leo coming up in the, like the ranks,
Agreed.
Leo definitely kind of got shut down. So I think I personally believe they're super strong if you use them correctly in certain types of counter pushes you do. And they're always going to be in my deck. So I have them for cycle capabilities and also have them for type of counter plays I can do. So I understand they do die to anything. They are kind of pointless in the whole debate of Kamakuras or Dorats. Which one do you pick? People always make the comparison, which I understand. They are so similar. But personally, I run them both. I heard you say it multiple times too when you run them both as well, just for the cycle capabilities. I agree, it is good. I've been doing that for a minute too, just because you're able to cycle. Kind of have both like land and air pretty much. So, they're definitely a specific role you want to use them for, but if you use them correctly, they can be super strong, I think.
Personally, I would never recommend using Dorats offensively. I'm just going to leave that for you to do. So when I do those tier lists, that's what I always say, because whenever I use Dorats, I can never use them like offensively. It's just, I cannot do it. So when I do find that success, it's definitely paired with Kamakuras, because it's a 5-cost swarm of a mix of flyers and ground, and it cycles way faster than just deploying one swarm, so it definitely has that going for it. But on its own, I really don't think Dorats like deserves a spot ever. But if you do have Kamakuras, which is a great unit, I do think they are viable. I usually put them in low B, but when they're paired with Kamakuras, I do think they're like pretty high B. What would you rate them overall?
I'm gonna say they're B, and I was expecting you to say like C tier, something. But hearing B is definitely, I agree with that. For me personally, I would put them B for sure. Man, they're definitely not A tier, but I think they're somewhere in the middle of B.
You think better than G89 and Mothra B?
They're definitely better than Mothra, or Mothra's definitely better than the Dorats for sure. Some part of me thinks, I kind of want to squeeze it behind Mothra, but I'm a little biased.
Yeah. I don't think it's that far off. G89 isn't exactly something that's super meta. I think he's just really easy to run and very strong, so a lot of like low casual players will just find it a lot easier just to drop G89, but I could definitely see Dorats being higher than him, so we'll go ahead and leave it there. Next, we're going to do Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla used to also be one of my favorite units to use. I used to think she was borderline S tier. I'd usually put her in the very top of A several seasons ago. But right now, I feel like she just does not do as much as the 5-cost 4-star flyers, and she is short range. I feel like what also really made her so strong back then was overpowered Psychic Chorus. Just paired super well with her because it allowed her to take the hit, so she had time to get in there. And then once she was in there, she was just clobbering people. Like, I used to say Mechagodzilla pretty much has boxing gloves on because she's just ready to scrap. What do you think about Mechagodzilla right now?
Ooh, Mechagodzilla is pretty interesting. For sure, you definitely don't see anybody really running her, for sure. That drops out pretty low. But I always thought she was pretty interesting, or for her being a 3-star unit.
Right.
She's the gold, But her having the ability of slowdown, because for me, I'm a rush on type of player, so I'm always saying like a King Caesar, something like a Kong, a speed boosting it. But she was always definitely annoying for me to play against, just because it was always something to counter, like speed rushing in general.
She does counter ground units very well, yes.
Yeah.
Would you say like B, like mid B, high B, low A? What are you thinking?
Probably say a mid B for sure, just because the use rate you don't really see her anymore.
Do you think she's better than Mechagodzilla?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay, so better than Mothra, not as good as Mechagodzilla?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I can agree with that. You don't have to evolve her as well, so sorry, Mothra. Next is Mogira, a unit that you comboed with your Kong Dorats strategy very well. I don't use Mogira. Honestly, I don't use Mogira or Kiryu that much for fun. I do see how strong they can be in certain situations, and I famously say this in my tier list where Mogira and Kiryu are very, very strong offensive units, especially Mogira, very strong offensively, but defensively he is pretty much useless. So it's kind of like the Kama Swarm situation, but reversed, except offense is way more important, obviously, than defense, so it still makes him pretty good. What do you think about Mogira as a whole, and especially in comparison to Kiryu, who now has Kiryu Kai? How do you think he falls into this meta of Season 18?
I feel like he was always kind of a specific. He kind of just was like around personally. Between the whole debate of like which one do you prefer, Kiryu or Mogira, I was always leaning in towards the Mogira side just because he is 1 cost cheaper.
Right.
And he does have a faster hit speed. I mean, it is one of the fastest hit speeds in the game.
Yes.
But I feel like for him being 5 costs cheaper, you can definitely amplify any push you're doing and send it. I mean, I like the fast hit speed. I like that whole fast pacedness of it. Personally, I was always leaning towards Mogira. I feel like he still kind of has his little relevancy here in the meta, but I was always a big fan of him for sure. I used him for a minute. I mean, I definitely liked him because you can almost like, you amplify any push you're going for, it can become different just by dropping him for 5.
Do you think he is earning of A tier, or would you put him around the mid to high B range?
I mean, once again, I feel like I'm gonna be a little biased here. I don't want to put him in A tier just because like the success I was able to find with him in certain scenarios. But I kind of want to say A tier. But that might be a little controversial.
I get why you say that. I just feel like with Mogira, it's like very situational. Like, so the way I think of Mogira is he needs other units on your team to do their job so he can work. Because he needs that push to get there so he can get behind the leader. Usually in any other situation, he's pretty much not going to help you out. So while I do value that offensive power he has, I can't really see myself putting him in A tier just because he can't really help you on defense. And he is very straightforward. But I can go with top of B above Space Godzilla. How do you think of that? How about that?
I mean, on a realistic standpoint, I can see that just because, like you're saying, I mean, he is for one purpose only. You drop him once, the person's got to worry about him the entire match. But at the end of the day, you know, he just is an offensive card. So, I mean, I can see that.
All right, we'll go.
I'm down to move down.
We'll go B with Mog. So next we got Super X. Super X could be, I could see people saying it's S tier still. I could see people saying it's A tier, B tier, nothing lower than that. But Super X, as we all know, several months back was dominating the meta, pretty much controlling it. I had it ranked as, you know, top 3 units in the game before the 5 cost flyers came around. I mean, he technically is a 5 cost flyer when you think about it, but I just think Super X's stalling potential, even still, I find in teams is if you can have a Super X sit behind your leader and stall and take out things, it creates the strongest push in the game. I don't think there's anything stronger that can be created than having a Super X stall for defense. What do you think about Super X as far as viability goes?
I mean, I think Super X is always going to be relevant in the meta in general, just because nothing does what it does for being a 5 cost, you know, 3-star card. I mean, no card in the game cannot be touched by the leader other than like 4-star legendaries. This is a 3-star, and it can't get touched by the leader.
Right.
I think that's pretty unique right there. So I mean, it's definitely annoying to play against. Always will be. But it definitely got easier to counter over the years.
Right. Like Ultraman for sure shuts it down, especially with Dimension Tide. That's like a guarantee. If I have Super X and I see an Ultraman and I see the Dimension Tide come out, that is pretty much the last time I deploy Super X. Until like, unless I could see the Ultraman's way over on the left side and I could deploy it on the right. But if it's anywhere near that Ultraman, I'm saying no. What I would say mid, high A. I would probably think about putting it over Hedora. What do you think?
I think that sounds about right to put it over Hedora. I mean, it definitely would have been S tier. But like you're saying, the Ultraman, you know, Dimension Tide was always an easy counter for it. So it definitely kind of fits in A. I think over Hedora sounds about right.
Sounds good. Let's do, next is Ultima. This is something that I receive flack for because I do drop Ultima to B tier occasionally. And you play guys like I do. I know you're playing around the same people. I really don't think Ultima is that much of a threat, especially if you're running something like King Caesar. I think there's so many ways to shut down Terrestrius from evolving. And even when Ultima does get up, he is pretty strong, and I've had situations where he definitely can dominate the match. But when playing into the current meta, I feel like it's very manageable. What do you think about Ultima as a whole?
I mean, Ultima as a whole, the only thing I'll say about that is I feel like all it is pretty much a beefier Super X, if anything. Just because it has the same kind of role, the way you played Super X, but Ultima is pretty annoying to go against, especially every time you're playing it. You're most likely going to play against a G9 leader, so you definitely are going to go against the damage amplifying for sure. But like you're saying, it definitely is pretty easy to counter, because if you have a Caesar or any type of like G89, just something to shut it down, it's definitely something that's always going to get shut down no matter what. But it's pretty easy to protect as well once you have him up. I mean, I think he's kind of floating around somewhere like in the mid B, I would say.
Yeah, I'm happy you said that, because I'm really feeling a B tier this season, especially because of the King Caesar buffs. King Caesar had a very good timing window to kill Terrestrius. Like, once you see Terrestrius hit, like, right before half, you could drop King Caesar, and there's usually nothing that will be able to protect him in time. And now that window is even shorter because of the King Caesar buff. And, yeah, I mean, I know you don't use Anguirus, but, dude, that guy can soak Ultima for a minute. You know, that's part of what I love about Anguirus. He soaks Super X and Ultima long enough to get you in close enough range with your damage dealers. And, yeah, I'm thinking Ultima is around. I kind of want to rank him behind King Caesar this season in front of Mecha King Ghidorah. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Nah, I couldn't agree more. That's exactly where I just put him right now, too.
Cool. Next is another kind of questionable unit, Jaguar Singular Point. There's times where I think this guy is doing very well. There's times where I'm like, yeah, this guy isn't really pulling his weight. I think he is solid, but just there's something missing about it. I can't put my finger on it, but like I just don't think he does enough damage or something. There's just something that makes me not want to put him in my deck even at level 20 right now. What is your experience with Jaguar Singular Point, and what do you think about him this season?
This season, I don't think it changes any from this season or last season. He kind of just floated around as that kind of, decent okay leader, or okay unit, my bad. But if you put him in your deck, you kind of know what you're getting, you kind of know what you're looking for. He does have walking mechanisms, but Super X can just eliminate it instantly. GB9, he does soak it up, but at the end of the day, you kind of know what you're getting out of it. Something fancy at all. I mean, the AoE is nice to have on him, but you definitely could use some type of buff or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird too, because back in the early days when Jaguar Singular Point first came out, back when like King Ghidorah, Ultima, JJSP, Mothra, those were some of the dominant units back then, and you've seen pretty much all those guys fall down to what seems like B tier now, which is,
yeah.
I mean, it's cool to see the game change over time, but there's definitely something with Jaguar, because I don't know, maybe it's him stunning himself and just the rise of other tanks like Giirus and whatnot, but I definitely think a mid to low B tier. I would definitely probably maybe behind Mothra. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't have any problem doing that, just because at least Mothra will input something to the team. But Jaguar, I mean, he just blocks. At the end of the day, you are using him just for that strictly, but I think that sounds right.
Yeah, I just feel like Jaguar has good matchups, but not enough to be like consistent. So B tier it is for you, man.
Yeah.
Next is Kong. I was really interested to see how you would try to worm Kong up from C tier, because I know you're gonna fight for it right now. And the thing is with him is he was always handicapped, so I always had that in the back of my mind that like most people aren't gonna have a good Kong. But now that he's coming back, G materials, the new level up system, which pretty much got my Kong to 15, I do think he has a fair chance to be meta now if his kit will let him. What do you think about Kong overall? What are you doing with Kong that makes him work that no one else is doing?
So, the specific reason why I ever used Kong was because I wanted some type of big beefy card to do something that like put pressure. Mm-hmm. I understand GD9 can do the same role. GD9 can be easily countered. With Kong, for me, I feel like it's a different story. Just because Kong can't be countered the same way you counter GD9. If you put Kamakuras or Kamakuras Swarm, anything that in general is a single target, do it to Kong, it's a different way. It's completely. Just because the AoE is going to absolutely wipe everything out, especially if you speed boost him with Gigan as your leader, Kong's just flying down the field. Like half of the time, a lot of people don't know how to really counter him or what to do against him. So him coming back is a big deal. Just because I don't have to use G material on him no more, I can just buy him from the shop. And that'd be great. But
and I love him as a leader.
One of those underdog units.
Yeah, and I've had success with Kong as a unit as well. I've done a couple videos on the channel where I pair him with Godzilla Earth and actually run a G89 leader. So I take advantage of the fact that I can G89 buff him and he's going to be doing tons of damage. I pair him with Godzilla Earth because he can be the tank for Earth while also sneaking his way in there for damage. I really do think this unit is underrated. I get it's hard to run him because he's going to be under-leveled most of the time, and you kind of need him to be tanky to function. But it is still pretty cool that really no one uses him, except really I think me and you are the only ones that have really tried to use him as far as like I've noticed. And we both use him in very different ways. You're more of a speed boosting Kong with Gigan strat, like rushing him. I'm more of like the slow push, walking him alongside Earth, and letting just big boys go to town with G89 boost. So I definitely think Kong has potential to creep into some meta play. Do you think he's better than G89?
Easily.
Okay. Where would you put him? So it's going to be B tier, right?
Yeah, I think it's B tier for sure.
Would you put him... Where would you put him? Like mid, high, low?
I'm going to go and put him mid B. I mean, he's definitely over G9 for sure. But
I'm going to go mid B over Mothra. Let's do that.
yeah.
I also think G89 is still... Like, I think the Mothra plays you can make with G89 are really strong still, which I don't think Kong can really do. I don't think he has enough health to make the Moth heal really worth it. But I honestly, I've used that Mothra strategy so much, I just know it like the back of my hand. You need energy base to even make it work, which is Train Bomb exists, so it's kind of hard for G89 to function with the Moth strategy. But moving on. G21. So I was willing to, you know, let Kong move up due to what we talked about the level increases, and, you know, we've tried him a lot, me and you specifically, but G21 I think is kind of crap, in my opinion. What do you think about this guy?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't agree more. Just because G21 is a specific type of card, like, I've never seen it done, but I'm curious to see if you put G21 on Earth, like, that seems like a type of use right there that'd be like extreme god tier. We just melt him away.
It is. I've seen it.
Other than that, specific types of plays, I mean, I don't really see a use for him per se.
The thing I used to say, yeah, for sure. The thing I used to say about G21 is he's a glorified Showa Gigan. Like, you only want this dude on the leader. Like, I kind of wish he would only run to the leader, because that is where, when he is on that leader doing damage, that is the one thing you could say, okay, this guy has that niche where if he's fighting in the midfield, he will win a 1v1, but he's so frail that he's going to have no health left. He's not going to have any time to stack up his damage again. And maybe a good fix would be to have his damage stack continuously, you know, like it doesn't have to reset after every attack, but...
Yeah, it'd be something to be like threatening-wise, at least something to look out for.
Yeah, or just make him tanky. He's a pretty thick, you know, they called him Fat American Godzilla, you know, give him some health a little bit maybe, but I hope he gets some buffs. I'd like to see Kong maybe get a little buff too. I know we said Kong's a little bit better than what people think, but at the same time, he's still not A tier, which is where you'd kind of want, more units to fall into.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm fine with saying G21's top of C above Manila. That's perfectly fine with me.
Yeah.
Next is Descadora, another weird unit because it is limited, but at the same time, you can dump GMATs into it. I think Spence has a 22 Descadora now, which is pretty high.
Jesus.
But at the same time, it is pretty much, it's not a Mechagodzilla clone, but it's kind of like pretty similar to where they're suffering from the same issues. I will say Descadora is better overall because it is slower, which lets you stack more. I'm all about like how much you could stack into a push, and being slower definitely helps out Descadora. He gets stun locked like an absolute animal. Like, this guy gets stun locked so easily. It makes me want to throw my phone sometimes. I'm just like, dude, it's like one MBA. Can you please hit it? It's been a minute. But
good job.
you also do have Dimension Tide to pair with him, which I don't know how you feel about Mecha Ghidorah with Dimension Tide, but I feel like it's pretty unnecessary. Like you were saying before, the spread is so wide that you don't really need Dimension Tide. Where Descadora has like a pierce, where I feel like it works a lot better with Dimension Tide because it sucks them all up so close together. And Descadora I still think is statistically better than Mechagodzilla. Maybe not, but I think a little bit. And a lot slower. Mechagodzilla is pretty fast as well, also the evolution. So what do you think about Descadora as a whole, especially when compared to Mechagodzilla?
And I think Descadora definitely is unique for having the piercing. that is the one thing you would put over one. But I mean, to this day, I still kind of question how far that piercing really reaches, because multiple times when I'm playing, I kind of like try to counter it, and then Descadora hits the leader somehow. That piercing just flies by.
Super.
So I definitely think sometimes it is crazy range. I think that range is kind of crazy on it, to be honest.
It is. I mean, it's super OP in overtime, especially because you just have to line up Descadora with another enemy unit. If you need one more hit, Descadora can for sure get that thing. And where would you put it? As I think because of this level cap increase that just happened, it raises the viability of those more rare 4-stars like Kong, G21, Descadora, as far as like level competition. So I used to rate Descadora pretty low just because it was usually under-leveled, but now I'm willing to put it kind of on par with everything else. Where do you think Descadora fits in?
I think Descadora would be B tier. I think it's definitely over Mechagodzilla for sure.
Do you think it's better than Ultima?
Nah, I don't think it is at all.
Okay. It's weird because they are going to be next to each other. I really don't feel like Descadora and Mechagodzilla are like the same unit, but they are similar, so I guess it does make sense. But I mean, what I always say is Descadora over Mechagodzilla unless your levels suggest otherwise, you know?
Yeah.
Next is Mothra Leo. Not even going to ask you where this unit needs to go. It's obviously an S tier. I think this unit is turbo. I say this. I created this phrase for the game. Turbo busted. That is Mothra Leo. Turbo busted. This unit is so stupidly strong. Like it did not need that last buff it got. It was way too much, and it's just too damn tanky, man. This thing hits way too hard. It's too damn tanky. It got an attack speed buff, so now it's hitting super fast. I mean, a lot of people think Mothra Leo is the best S tier unit in the game. I still think it's Batra. I could totally see why, I'm not scoffing at the idea, but Mothra Leo does have counters, and there's situations where he does not perform as well. Like, I wouldn't say Batra really has any natural counters, you know? It's either like you're fighting him, or, I mean, that's it. Like, he's going to hit you back, and it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
What do you think
for sure.
about Leo? Yeah, what do you think about him?
I was going to say, for sure, Leo definitely speaks for itself. I mean, there's not much to really said about Leo, why it's S tier, just because the fact that, you know, the amount of stuff you got to put on the field just to counter Leo, and at the end of the day, it probably is still going to be up. Especially how easy it is to just pair with Psychic-Chorus and Leo, especially if Leo's a higher level. Psychic-Chorus on that is just going to stay up all day. I mean, yeah, that's one of those cards you just drop down and it goes to town.
Yeah, it's just such a... I mean, it's easily the best combo in the game, I think. I think Psychic-Chorus Mothra Leo is better than Ultraman Dimension Tide, which says a lot, because that it's just that strong. It's just that damn strong. And then you got G89 boost on top of it with the charge. It's just crazy. So I'm gonna put it behind Batra in front of Biolante, but all three of these units are, you know, great.
Special.
Yeah, they're all great. And we got another great one, Fire Rodan.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna put Fire Rodan already just above Biolante. It's just a flyer meta, and I think he deserves it. I mean, even if it wasn't a flyer meta, the heal is just broken. I think we can all agree. Yeah, we can all agree the heal on the leader is broken, and there's like no counterplay to it. You gotta kill him. You can't just not kill the guy, you know. Like, if they deploy him to die, he's gonna die. And that heal can totally counteract some pushes. It can heal up other units at the same time. Not only that, Fire Rodan is still pretty good on offense because he has the speed boost, and it's not like huge for other units most of the time, but speed boosting himself is enough to get across the map onto the leader if you need to like take out something like a Super X.
Yeah.
And just the king of utility, pretty much. What do you think about this guy?
I mean, I think he was broken since the evolution on death was a thing, just because his purpose is to die on the map.
Yeah.
But he can also shoot. His range is also pretty ridiculous too.
Pretty good.
I mean, for him being a unit where you want him to die, the input like he gives for that is just insane. Because if you literally are connected to the leader and Rodan dies, the leader just goes up instantly, even if you are hitting the leader. Like, it just cancels you out. I mean, it's so strong.
Yeah, there's not really much to say about this dude. He's been the same for several months. Just heal on the leader if you haven't seen it yet. Broken. I mean, that's pretty much it. Other than that, if the heal didn't exist, he's still a pretty solid unit as far as like his stats go. Easy evolution. just a very, very good unit. Next is Kiryu Kai. Kiryu is not in the tier list anymore. RIP, buddy. We're on to Tokyo SOS. Kiryu Kai, I haven't been able to test as much. I've actually been pretty busy. Haven't uploaded a video in like 4 days, so this will be the first one since then. I still need to do the showcase for this dude, which you guys, I need to tell you real quick. It is horrible recording the showcase for this guy. I want you to just understand how horrible it is. I gotta kill this dude twice. And then once overtime happens, it's just... my brain hurts just thinking about it. But that will be coming up soon, so if you guys are going to ask for that, I'm sure you will. Kiryu Kai's showcase is coming. As far as he goes as a unit, it makes walking Kiryu better. Not by a lot, though. I still think deploying him the same way, like behind the leader, is usually what you're planning on doing. I do see some strategies where you deploy him in the farther corners, so he's still not getting like hit by the leader while being behind. And I mean, overall, I don't think it adds a lot to Kiryu. The stats are pretty similar. I think it just adds more utility as far as the ways you could play him. What do you think about Kiryu Kai's buff as a whole? Is it enough to warrant an A tier?
I don't think it's A tier worthy. I mean, to me, I would still choose Mogira over Kiryu, just because I feel like, you know, I kind of feel like Mogira kind of does his job a little better, even though Kiryu does have splash damage and AoE. But at the end of the day, Kiryu did get a nice buff, which is like helps him in general, but I don't really think it changes much, to be honest with him.
So I can see where you're coming from. Part of me wants to put Kiryu in bottom of A because I think I'm actually just going to do it. I think walking Kiryu is way more optimal now with Kiryu Kai. And Mogira is never going to be a walking unit. That guy's not have good range. And he just is really made for being a behind pecker, you know? Where Kiryu Kai has pretty solid range that stays out of leader aggro. So you could still use him to, like, you know, you could Batra buff him to walk him down there. And maybe it's still not as strong as Mogira's offense as far as like deploying him behind the leader, but I think it adds to his usefulness, and I think it's enough to warrant a bottom of A. Nothing like massive. I would say like maybe just a step above Mogira, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Still haven't used him as much. He does have high HP, which makes me think Mothra combo could also be really good, so still a lot of experimenting I'm sure both of us have to do with this unit. And,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I still got to do some ranked battle videos as well as the showcase. So Kiryu Kai is going to be on the channel a lot coming up here. Next is Burning Godzilla. Just got a buff. Was already a very strong top of A tier unit in my opinion. What do you think about Burning Godzilla? Is he overvalued? Is he undervalued? Is he just meta? What is this guy?
I think Burning Godzilla is pretty strong where he is right now, especially since that buff helped his explosion go even further and wider. He's definitely one of those cards you see somebody play. It does make you get worried just because like you have to answer it pretty quickly because you don't want any of that meter going up.
Right.
He's pretty strong the way he is, I think.
I think Melee said after the buff, he was thinking S tier guaranteed because he was already like a top of A tier to both of us. But personally, after using him, I don't think the attack has done like a ton for him, you know? Like, it doesn't make him worse, but I don't think it makes him, like, way better. I feel like he's still performing the same, which is really good. But I'm just not feeling S tier with this guy yet. Do you feel S tier with him, or is he still a high A tier?
Personally, I would say he's probably a high A.
Yeah. Okay.
I almost want to put him S, but I would say I think A's fine.
Do you think
he's one of those cards you have to answer?
Do you think he's better than Kamakuras?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so he's probably the king of A tier then. That'll probably be the highest you can go. Very good unit. Probably the best Godzilla in the game, so it's a good movie. I'm not too disappointed about that. Next is Godzilla 1954. Another unit that I see a little bit of controversy around. People like to tell me he's better than what I put him. I usually put him like a mid-high B tier. I still am under the impression he is like a more of a mid to higher mid B tier pick. As a whole, I just don't think he's that. He's pretty much a Burning Godzilla that doesn't explode. And we saw how Burning Godzilla did when his explosion didn't hit previously, and he was pretty trash. So all that upside kind of comes off of his evolutions. and they can be good, but I feel like you're forced to run Ultima. I really don't like running Terrestris, or I don't like when he turns into Terrestris at all. And yeah, I mean, I just think is a decent unit, just not super good. What do you think about G54?
He's in a weird spot. I mean, it's because he can make stuff cheaper. I mean, 5-cost G9, that's always a plus.
Right.
4-cost Q2, I mean, but at the end of the day, it is orange, so it's just random, you know?
It's random, and he has to transform back afterwards every time.
Yeah, I don't really think that's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you can have fun with him. It's not like he's bad. It's just, like, not meta. Not meta. He's pretty slow, though. You know, he does a good job at being, like, a first drop, but...
Yeah.
He's just lacking a little something to me, especially for, like, 6 cost. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's balanced, but it's just not really meshing with me as far as, like, viability goes in high-tier play. Would you put him... I'm thinking he's not as good as... I would put him between... Honestly, I'm feeling between Descadora and Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, I could see that. Just because at least the value you get from him is something positive with cheaper units. So, yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Alright. Next is Gigan 04. Now, I've been putting Gigan 04 in pretty high mid-A, and I'm starting to lose that confidence in him. So I'm kind of curious to hear what you have to say about Gigan 04.
So Gigan 04, I think, is a pretty strong unit. He's 4 cost. I mean, people now are definitely going to have higher levels of him. He's pretty annoying to play against. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Connects to your leader, but that does add up if you do let him. So he's in an interesting spot. So I'm curious to see where you put him yourself. But I definitely think he's pretty strong just for the stun.
I'm going to say it's tough. I'm going to say he's bottom of A. I'm thinking below Kiryu Kai personally right now. I know you didn't want Kai in A, but yeah, he at the end of the day, he doesn't hit flyers, and he's not very tanky, so he can be shut down by flyers at some point, but I still think for 4 cost, he hits like a truck and is surprisingly really good on defense, which you never really thought previously. He does have like that Mega Guirus type defensive niche that definitely helps him. And yeah, I'm confident with putting him in A tier still, just probably not as high as I've been rating him, just because he's honestly just not that, he's pretty frail overall.
Yeah.
Next is Godzilla Earth, who I don't think you can't not put this unit in A tier. I'm sure you've had experiences with Earth where, I don't know how much you use him, but I've definitely had experiences where I've played against this unit using just like a fun team, and it literally feels like you're running into a brick wall. Like there's just nothing you can really do, especially if they know how to Dimension Tide with it. It can be extremely strong, even against like very meta teams. If they get a good Dimension Tide in there, that advantage state they're in can be very hard to deal with. What do you think about Godzilla Earth?
I mean, personally, I don't run him at all. I mean, I've used him a couple times, but not enough to really like save. But if like playing against him though, that is a nightmare. You definitely don't want to play against him. If he connects to your leader, there's not much you can really do. So to avoid that, I always recommend pushing the opposite side, making the people burn stuff, so they can't really
combo
nothing on her. So it's just a one-on-one with Earth at that point.
That makes sense.
I definitely would say for Earth, I mean, that damage it can input, the damage it does in general is pretty crazy, especially when you get that damage amplifier. But it is pretty slow, so that definitely hurts it. I mean,
yeah,
I almost want to play S tier, but I could go with A tier for sure. Because how good it really is.
Okay, so the thing I say with Earth is, like you were mentioning, he's that slow, is you almost can't deploy him in overtime because he's so damn slow that like things are happening way too quick. And it takes him a while to get that push going. So I feel like as strong as he is, it is kind of balanced around the fact that it gets harder and harder to deploy him as the match goes on.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking high A, maybe in front of Super X, behind Kamakuras.
I think that sounds right.
It's hard. It's funny. It's funny seeing Kamakuras above Earth because like obviously like Earth would just shit on any Kamakuras, but
yeah.
It's just the the way we look at it is like team building, so
yeah.
But it is funny to see. We could probably save some time here and just say Jet Jaguar 73 D tier, right?
that sounds perfect.
Above Showa Gigan, we'll give you that one, buddy, but you are just the worst 4-star. If I ever pull you, I'm pissed, pretty much. I just hate looking at you. You're, like, horrible. I just did the unit showcase for 4th Angel Sachiel, or whatever you call that guy. And he just demolished Jet. It was just hilarious. Like, I'm just like, dude, this is a 3-star level 20. Demolishing a 4-star level 20. Like, and he just got buffed. It's not like before but he just got buffed again. So this unit,
not even noticeable.
Yeah, this unit's trash. I mean, it's a dog water unit. It's just literally trash. I don't care what anyone has to say.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I hate Jet Jaguar, dude. It's pretty iconic. I love all my Showa monsters, but dude, I mean, Godzilla vs. Megalon, pretty bad movie, but either way, the fight's fun. He doesn't deserve this. Just not a good unit. Just really bad. Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla is interesting. I think he's got to be like a C tier for you, right?
Yeah, that's literally perfect.
3-stage evolution with just so fucking slow, man. Like, just so slow. Like, it's insane. You have to run Gigan Leader with this dude if you've ever tried him. I cannot get this guy to work without pulling out my hair if I don't use Gigan Leader. So, is it good? I don't know if you've tried, like when Shinagawa dies and you redeploy him behind the leader. Like, that can stack up a lot of energy when he evolves to Gigan Ripper, which I think is one saving grace in the future. But, like, as far as him as a unit goes, he's just not good at all. I mean, I want to put him behind G21. What do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely squeeze him behind G21 just because he's not, like, bottom C tier, I don't think. Just because he does have kind of a little purpose.
Right.
It's nothing crazy at all.
Right.
I mean, like you're saying, even if you evolve him, it's nothing fancy. Like, you could put in a Guirus down and he'd be stuck shooting single target.
Right.
He's kind of just, just there.
Yeah, I mean, there's potential in the future if they buff him, like, but I mean, and like I said, that Shinagawa push that you can do with Gigan Blade Ripper is a lot of energy. It's a strong push, but it's not even because of Shin Godzilla as a unit. It's just because of how he evolves, you know? Like, if they do any other evolution like that, it would be the same exact way. Next is Ultraman. I mean, S tier, correct?
Easily.
Yeah, how did I guess that one? I'm gonna put him over Bio. What do you think? Over Bio? That's debatable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nah, I think so.
This unit does need, I think the same thing with, we didn't mention it with Earth, but I think any AoE carry option piercing needs Dimension Tide in the deck. Maybe not needs it, but it's just too good to not run.
Yeah,
I think
the fullest effect.
Yeah, I think Hedora can get away with it because hers is a splash. But like units like Ultraman where it's really skinny, Godzilla Earth takes way too long to shoot, so you want to hit everything with the Dimension Tide. So I feel like those units really need it. But as far as Ultraman goes, just a great addition to the game. Pretty much the perfect example of what you want a new 4-star to look like. He's not dominating as like a super overpowered strongest unit. He stacks up with the rest of the S tiers. So, I mean, I'm happy with this guy's strength. He did just get nerfed. If any of you are still wondering how that affects him, it literally does not at all. Especially because of the level increase. So he's going to have higher attack no matter what than what you had. So he's pretty much in a great spot. Would you say the same?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the way Ultraman plays, he's definitely the only way to describe him. He's a do-it-all type of card, for sure. Just because he can hit air, he can hit ground. I mean, he chases stuff when he's in the air, which is crazy. If you try to split push, he will go after you, which is kind of crazy. I always notice that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, he doesn't get hit by the leader, so that's always crazy, too.
Yeah, and just, I think, especially him as a unit, because of his range, there's so many ways to use Dimension Tide, like, skillfully to just win a trade. Like, Dimension Tiding it just in that perfect range where it doesn't hit Ultraman and he's still attacking the other unit. Very, very good. I think it does require, like, a high skill ceiling to constantly, use him to that full effectiveness. Not like Batra or Leo where you just send them and have them massacre everything. But, yeah, S tier for sure. Next is Naranga. Naranga is something that I put him in C tier a little bit, maybe like at the very bottom of B, but he's starting to get some levels. He isn't anything fantastic statistically. People are vouching for him, but I still feel like he is missing some HP or maybe a little bit of attack speed. There is something that is missing with this dude to make him like really viable, but I don't think he's bad. I'm willing to put him in B tier. What about you?
Yeah, so with Naranga, I definitely think he's pretty decent. I mean, he does have this weird like frames where he like reveals himself and he gets hit by a Leo, which is kind of dumb. I think
horrible.
I don't think that should ever be a thing.
I hate that. Yes.
But, yeah, that's just stupid. But I mean, personally, I think he could definitely be bottom of B, just because like you're saying, he is going to get levels, so that is only help him. I mean, invincibility is pretty cool, or not invincibility. The cloak is definitely pretty unique, just because he can take out Super X. That's always an answer for that. So
yeah,
I could see it more played.
He's also pretty slow, so you can drop him pretty early and have him stack up with other units. If he does get stun locking, which isn't very easy if he's up fighting against it, but if he's like on the side, it can help out a lot. It's going to take some time, I think, for the better players to start trying to like dive in, dissecting him and seeing how good he is. I'm really close to getting this guy to 30. It costs a lot of gold still. I didn't get him all the way there with the last thing. I think I got him to like 26 maybe, but I will be trying him out more. But moving on to Mephilis. Now, Mephilis is someone I have really high hopes for at level 30. His DPS is very strong. If you look at it on paper, if you see his attack, if you combo it with like a G89 boost, he is going to be hitting like for over 1,000 damage at 2.2 seconds at level 30, which for a 3-star is pretty damn impressive. But his range isn't that high. He is pretty tanky with the HP buff. He's got over 3k at level 30, but range isn't super high, and he just doesn't even, I think it's his presence. Like, he's so small, he just doesn't look menacing, you know? Like, he just looks so damn small. But after seeing Sachiel, the 4th angel, that unit is cracked, and it's better than Mephilis by far, so it kind of almost lowered my opinion of Mephilis more just because of how good that other angel is. But what do you think about Mephilis? How do you think he's going to impact the meta once he's closer to level 30 for most King of the Monster players?
I mean, personally, I kind of have a high ceiling for him. I could feel like he would definitely be somewhere kind of relevant once he's like super higher, but he does have that stun, which is pretty unique. But I don't think it really helps or saves him. He's definitely at a kind of an interesting spot right now, I think.
Yeah, I can see some situations, like particularly like Gigan 04, he stuns him really well. When Gigan zips in, he just kicks him straight in the jaw, and it really locks up Gigan. Gigan 04 actually really doesn't like stuns at all. And also Anguirus is a front of the pack tank, and if he's by himself, Mephilis can kind of just stall on him for a little bit. So I can totally see ways to make it work. It's also a ground unit, can be Gigan rushed. And like we mentioned before, he does have that high attack, so he doesn't really need G89 boost to hit hard. So he can still pair well with a unit like, or a leader like Gigan. What would you put him as far as, would you put him like right behind Naranga in B tier?
Yeah, I think that's a good fit for
so
him.
Just have him,
he hasn't too much play.
Yeah, just have him kind of chilling at the bottom, potential-wise, you know?
Yeah.
Next is Zetton. Zetton is someone I had absolutely tons of fun with doing the Godzilla Earth combo. I did those twice on the channel. We almost beat Admin 1, which is not an easy feat. I literally would have beat him if I just dimension tied it twice on the leader, but I didn't trust it. It is strong, and it does not need a ton of levels behind it to be good. It can be countered with Dimension Tide, and without the Godzilla Earth combo, Zetton is pretty much a glorified swarm where he only helps on defense. I have not seen this guy in a long time, actually, and I don't think I did think EVA 1 kind of broke the Godzilla Earth Zetton combo, but after learning EVA 1 only shields himself, not everyone within the vicinity, it still is going to work really nicely. I have really high hopes for Zetton. I know you don't use Godzilla Earth, so you probably haven't tried the combo, but what do you think about Zetton as a whole?
To be honest, with Zetton, I've never really been sold on the idea of the card, just because to me, it is strongly a defensive card that kind of just sits there. I mean, the on-death effect is pretty powerful, but other than that, I mean, personally, I haven't really seen it used for him that much. I don't really, like, wouldn't say he's very high in my standards because he kind of just sits there, in my opinion. If you're not doing that combo like you're saying, that's super strong. But if it's just the unit itself, I'm not really sold on him, to be honest.
Like me personally, when I think of this guy, is as far as meta goes, it's the Godzilla Earth combo. Like that is how this guy is going to be meta. That push offensively is devastating, and I mean you can time it right by just flicking the Gigan speed boost at the perfect moment to really catch them off guard.
Yeah.
It is a ton of investment, and it could not work, but when it does, man, it is really deadly, and it could beat anyone in the game, like any player, no matter what levels they have. I'm gonna go ahead and put him. What do you think? Do you think he earns a B tier in your book, or is he more of like a C tier?
Personally, I think C. But like you're saying, whenever you see him, it is going to be fair with Earth. So I could see them getting a B status just for that alone. Because, I could see it for B.
I really hate bunching all the Ultraman units together, but I mean, it's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how it's happening, man. It's just what's going down. I'm going to put him above Naranga and Mephilis because I do see that first-hand potential off the Earth combo. I'm really tempted to drop GMATs into Zetton, but I think I'm going to save it for G21 just because so many people like watching that guy waddle around and die, so I think I'll do that for my channel, but really looking forward to using Zetton in the future. Next is Destroyah, who you just won the tournament we were in with Destroyah and your team, which I thought was really impressive. I only watched a couple matches, but what was it about Destroyah that made you want to use him, like saw the potential in him?
So definitely, like whenever I make card decks or I do any specific thing that I want a unit, I definitely look at like what it can contribute or like how it plays. For Destroyah, it was definitely his speed was super slow. So something like that, I'm instantly gonna pair with Gigan Leader just like a speed rush him.
Right.
So him getting a buff was probably the best thing to happen, just because he literally became an instant evolve.
He needed it.
That was literally only a plus. No, for sure.
He needed it.
But once you get him up, he's just a menace to deal with. Like playing against Earth players in that tournament is actually insane to me. That Destroyah can actually take an Earth 1-on-1 is the crazy part to me.
Yeah.
Using him, it's crazy, man.
Because I feel like I was one of those Earth players, and there's a ton of them. Like there's no one using Destroyah, and you ended up winning the whole tournament. So it made me think. I think I got third or fourth, something like that. But everyone was doing the Earth like the Earth decks, and when I was playing other Earth decks, it was like literally a coin flip. It was like who can drop Godzilla Earth first, and that guy's gonna win because he's stacking up way more with his push. But you were able to find a way to counter that, which was also a pretty respectable thing because it's fixed battle, everything's the same level, and it's pretty much like who can build the best team. And it was a pretty impressive showing by you, I must say. As far as Destroyah goes, viably and ranked, he's probably still underleveled. There's probably not too many people that dump GMATs into him. Have you tried him in ranked? Have you seen any success with that?
Yeah, so recently I did do some gameplays of him on ranked. So I did jump in my GMATs in him. So I put him to level 13. He was like level 2, I think. So I jumped a bunch in him, and I still did find success playing with him. So I think he is pretty strong, even like at a level 12 or 13. He's still viable, I think, just because the on death, it has that effect where it spawns Destroyahs, where you can kind of build a push and kind of go around it. But I mean, personally, I think he's pretty viable now, just because now he can become an instant evolve, so you don't really have to worry about, him dying on his evolution. It's kind of guaranteed now, so you can pretty much use him whenever you want now.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
The on-death effect is huge for defense as well, as far as like single target attackers go. Like it just adds to his tankiness. It pretty much makes him like 5 hits tankier in a way, so.
Yeah.
I really haven't used this guy. He's still like level 5 for me. He's like really low. Not even worth really trying to like find if he's good or not. So I'm gonna lean on you for this rating. What do you think of Destroyah in season 18?
Personally, I'd be a little biased, but I'm gonna put him in a B for sure. I think I'm gonna put him in front of Kong.
So behind Mechagodzilla, in front of Kong?
Yeah, I think so.
So what do you think is still missing from this? Is it kind of just a level issue still, or is it just, what do you think is still kind of missing from the A tier?
I'm going to go and say probably the levels, just because there are some matchups where he wins and some he doesn't. But I think definitely if he was higher level, it would kind of be a fair play at that point.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I want to use this guy. I just wish he was this good when he had the raised level, But
yeah,
it is what it is. Next, we have Giant Octopus, whatever you want to call this thing. This thing is god-awful. I mean, it is horrible. It is like just deploying a giant piece of shit on the field and like hoping that it will kill a Godzilla. Like, there's just no chance. This thing's horrible. It is horrible. What do you think? Is there any use for this thing?
I don't even, bro. Like, I don't even know what to say about Giant Octopus other than like it finessed in the game, which is crazy.
Dude, it's dog shit. It is so bad. I mean, I get, Melee started the whole campaign to get Octopus in. I get it, like a little fun thing. I honestly don't mind because I watch all like Toho. Like, I love Godzilla. So I mean, I've seen Giant Octopus in Godzilla versus King Kong, and in the War of the Gargantuas, even Frankenstein versus Baragon. Shout out to Baragon, my favorite monster. Love that movie. It's in like the secret hidden endings, but I wouldn't have been mad if it was in the game, but it is horrible, man. Like, horrible. And it's pretty disgusting that it's in the game off of the voting poll and is this bad. So we'll just leave it at that. But this guy's,
really is, but
yeah, he's disgusting. Yeah, just horrible. Gigan or Godzilla Final Wars is next. Use this guy a bit at level 10. I think he's really strong, but the worst part about his kit, in my opinion, is how fast he is. Personally, how I play, I feel like we kind of have a little bit of different play styles too. I feel like you kind of crafted your own niche, and I kind of did my own as well. I feel like you're a lot faster of a player, and I am someone who is like trying to build like the biggest, most insane push that is just uncounterable. Like, that's always what I try to do. And Godzilla 04 is really hard to fit in that because he's so damn fast, and you want him to be on the back line hitting with his high damage, but usually he's out in front getting targeted. What do you think of this unit as far as like speed and all that stuff goes?
And personally, I think Final Wars Godzilla is going to be kind of something scary to look after. Once people start getting levels and you start seeing him more, other than his speed being the problem, to where he's just going to go up like alone, I think he's pretty strong in general. If like his hit points are like high, his damage is really high. I mean, I don't really see a con to him other than like his tailspin sometimes kind of weird.
Yeah.
But kind of becomes kind of a do-it-all card, which is kind of cool to see. I mean, he's pretty strong, I think. Once levels are a thing, I really don't want to see him personally.
I think the speed, like, I don't think the speed's like a bad thing, but I think because he's more under-leveled, you want him being protected more because, he's not built that way. But I think if we had like level 30s, it might be a pretty different story. Like, this guy might want to get in those fights and do crazy things. He doesn't have access to AoE, but he honestly reminds me of Mephilis like a ton. Just the way they have the kick and the tailspin, but just the way they attack too. Very fast and very hard, and he definitely hits really hard. So as far as this unit goes, what are you thinking? I'm leaning towards more of a B tier with this guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I think B tier sounds about right. I just don't know who like you could put him over.
I want to put him over. I want to put him over G54, kind of.
Yeah, I was thinking kind of similar. Definitely between the Ghidorahs for sure.
I still think Descadora is still pretty solid and really slow. You could stack a lot, and then the Dimension Tide combo on top of that. Yeah. So G54 has a lot of upside, or G04 has a lot of upside. So I think in the future, like you said, it's going to be pretty strong. And we are getting towards the end of the monsters. We got a lot of the effect units stacked up back here. We could probably rapid fire through those. But EVA Unit 1, this is the EVA tier list, so what do you think about EVA Unit 1 as a whole? Do you think it's one of the best 4-stars we've gotten? Do you think it's pretty underwhelming? I know a lot of people don't like the charge. What do you think of this guy, or girl?
Personally, I think it's kind of underwhelming. Like, whenever I used it for a couple of times, it definitely felt like something was missing from it. I mean, the AoE on it is, like, I mean, it's pretty cool, like, sure, but I feel like something's kind of missing on it. Not really sure what it is. But I don't know. I'm kind of left like, I don't really know what to think about it, personally.
So I feel like I'm a lot higher on EVA 1 than most people are. And I feel like a lot of people are put off by the charge, like doing 0 damage and taking a long time. And I could totally agree. It does not help the unit when it needs to like stop charging and attack. Like, it definitely always will get attacked first. But the unit statistically is very, very strong. The range is good. It does have AoE. It may not be massive, but it can work with Dimension Tide. And if Sashiel is as good as we think he's going to be, and Burning Godzilla is already a top of A tier, that is damage that EVA 1 can pretty much just totally absorb. The range, so the thing I like about it is I'm a very slow player. I like to slowly stack things. And EVA 1 does take a long time to start running, and it does stall a lot of time. So I feel like those intervals where she stalls are very powerful for her as far as like stacking up pushes. The times it's bad is when she fights someone and then recharges and then has to do it again. She's too low health by then, is probably going to die.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say she's S or high A, or I'm leaning towards top of B. I really do think this unit's good, and I do think the push can be good for pushing things like Hedora or Anguirus. She pretty much can raise their speed to hers, and yeah, I mean, I like her personally. I've used her quite a bit. I've used her on the channel a little bit. I'm actually using her in the next tournament, this tournament that we're doing this season for that B. That is, she's on my team, and she's doing pretty well. The team's doing pretty decently, and I do like her. So what is your initial thoughts on this unit as far as like tier list wise? Like, what rating would you give it?
I mean, I definitely agree with the B tier listing for sure. I'm just trying to decide where it would go. I mean, I definitely think it's better. Definitely think it's better than Mothra for sure. But I mean, for me personally, because you've definitely used it way more than me, so I'm curious to see where you would put it over which unit. But I definitely think for a starter, it's better than Mothra, for sure.
If we're gonna go like comparing it on equal footing, I guess this is like ranked. So the highest it can really be is 10 for most people. There's not too many people that are gonna have it higher, and if they do, it's gonna be like 12, 13, and then if not that, it's a whale. So yeah, I'm leaning towards I want to put it above. That's tough. I want to put it above GO4, honestly. I really do. I like it more. I like it more than GO4 just because of how much more you can stack in a push with her.
Yeah.
I think she's really good defensively and offensively. Just really good stats overall. But moving on, really interested to hear what you have to say about Fourth Angel Sashiel, if that's how you say it. I don't know. But what do you think of this guy? Is he as good as we think he is? Like, what's going on with this dude?
I think he is. For being a 3-star and have the same ability as a Burning Godzilla, he's literally Burning Godzilla, just reskinned, in my opinion.
What I think is he's like Kong almost with an explosion, because he has the same range. But yes, continue.
Yeah. One thing I'll say about it is that the effect of like the death damage happening is so cool, just because you don't have to brew it up like Burning Godzilla, having to get in ticks and stuff. For him, you just put him down and he just goes to town, blows up, and does like a crap ton of damage. That's always a plus, not having to really work for it. So, I mean, I can definitely see him in the meta for sure once he gets higher.
I think this guy is for sure going to be meta, especially at level 30. Like, I mean, what I'm seeing at level 20 is he's pulling his weight in fixed battles, which is really rare for a, like, I'm sure you've tried it with like Naranga or Mephilis, like they suck in fixed. Like they suck. I mean, it's just what it is. But this guy's pulling his own weight. He doesn't hit flyers and he doesn't pierce, which made people think like, whatever then. But the stats are there. The explosion damage is massive and it happens instantly, and it's pretty damn big. You don't have to stack it up like Burning Godzilla. I think this guy is just exactly what you'd want to see from a new 3-star unit. I'm really happy he exists because, I mean, it just shows that they can release new 3-stars that are very impactful to the meta, and I think this guy will be. It's still low leveled. I mean, no one's going to be using this dude where we're playing, but I'm wanting to put him in like an honorary bottom of A just to show like, yeah, this guy is going to be good.
Yeah, I can see that.
Next is Dimension Tide, S tier, right?
I agree.
It makes every AoE piercing unit way better. It's good on its own even without that. It has so many uses. It does way too much damage and way too big of a vacuum. It's just the perfect combo unit. I'm going to put it behind Biolante because at the end of the day it is an effect, but a very good one. Next is Energy Base. I don't know if you know my Energy Base escapades, but I think Energy Base is fundamentally broken when it's up. I think it gives a huge advantage. What is your opinion on Energy Base? Do you not notice anything when the other player has it pushing into you, or do you notice like Energy Base is doing stuff?
So like, if you definitely don't have Dimension Tide, Train Bombs, Mogira, Kiryu, just something to take it out, you definitely will lose like almost 100% of the time.
Right.
If you're playing somebody good and they have Energy Base,
Right.
they are having an advantage over you. So having something like that, in my opinion, should never be in the game.
Right.
Because that's not competitive to me. Like the person you're losing to has an advantage over you. I just don't think that's right.
I agree. I mean, that's why I use it. I was addicted to this thing, you know. I used it so much because that's the only way I could beat the whales that I'm sure haunt you as well, because we're pretty good players, but at the end of the day, we don't have the levels to compete. What Energy Base does is gives you that advantage to at least have like the energy advantage to put them on their back foot and make them mess up. There's really no, it's either you take it out or you leave it up and are at a huge disadvantage, which is pretty cancerous as far as like the game goes. I totally agree with you on that. Would I be upset if they took it out of the game? Absolutely not. I don't think it deserves to be in the game because it's the only thing in this game that's not based on a movie. So, but I doubt they'll ever take it out. You know, they'd probably have to refund us gold. They don't want to deal with all that nonsense. So, but I mean, I always want to put Energy Base in the bottom of A because yes, it can be countered. Yes, it can be taken out. But if you don't, like you said, like it's pretty much you will lose against another good player. They will beat you. So I'm going to put it bottom of A behind Sashio here. Sonde, I lean Sonde towards C tier. Do you find a use for this thing in some teams? I just never really want to use it.
Honestly, I don't. If anything, I feel like, in my opinion, it kind of helps them because you're stunning their push, I think. I mean, some scenarios it could be cool, like if you have Super X or Ultima and they're just shooting away and that card can't touch them. But in most scenarios, I don't think it's much useful at all.
Yeah, and if we're not including like the Sonde bug, which, you know, I honestly don't think it's that broken. Like, I would welcome that trying to be implicated into the meta, but at the same time, like, yeah, it's obviously a bug. Like, that was not intended. It is kind of cool, though, because it is timing-based, but anyways, yeah, we're not going to go too far into that. Sonde, by itself, as it's supposed to be used, probably a bottom of C tier. Helicopters. Honestly, dude, I don't know if you've tried, like, any Mechagodzilla teams, but helicopters honestly can hit pretty decently. It's just Train Bomb exists, and if Train Bomb's at 3 costs doing what it's doing, it's almost never, ever... I mean, helicopters by itself would, at the highest, be C tier, but I'm still going to put them in D for right now.
Yeah, I could see that, just because the use rate of it's going to be really horrendous. I mean, you're not really getting much from it, but, I mean, if you're using the spawner, you kind of know what you're getting.
Dude, I pulled out some clean-ass wins with the Mechagodzilla team a couple months ago. It was crazy, but... Yeah, I mean, if it was ever meta, like, boom, Train Bomb, like, not meta anymore, bye. So, at the end of the day, it's got to be, like, D tier. Kid Ship, I'm feeling D tier. It's still way too expensive at 5. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty expensive, too. Just for, like, I mean, it is cool, because you can kids in Earth or something random. I mean, you can get pretty, like, techie with it, but what are you really doing it for? I mean, the way, even when you kids them, they do get placed randomly every time, so that is kind of, like, the downside. Like, I mean, it's kind of just there.
I know King Ghidorah has been, another top player, has been experimenting with kids a bit. He's been having a lot more fun now that he hit rank 1 a couple seasons ago. But, I mean, it's not like a bad effect. I don't think it's like useless. It's just, it's way too expensive. Like, it's half of your total energy to teleport, you know? And it's not like it's counteracting their push. It's just walking past it. So now you got to deal with that with 5 less energy. It's just, needs to be a little bit cheaper. Markalite Cannon. I honestly think if Train Bomb goes down, Markalite Cannon could be like a B tier pick. I'm leaning C right now. I still think it's useful enough, even with Train Bomb, to be a C tier pick. I had a match against Spencezilla like months ago with a random team, and the Markalite Cannon, I swear to God, literally won me the match because it just took out like 3 of his units because I deployed it like in a perfect spot and it just melted them.
Jesus.
But yeah, I mean, there's no other way I would have beat him if it wasn't for that Markalite Cannon just doing something crazy right there. But I still think it's like, you know, what do you think about it? Do you think it has any usefulness?
I mean, I mean, I can see it doing something on the map. I mean, personally, I'm surprised. Like, not many people talked about how much damage it really does.
It does a lot.
It does do a lot of damage.
Yeah, it does
a lot, which is surprising. That's super surprising. But, you know, I mean, I can definitely picture it too. Like you're saying, if Train Bombs was out and it took more, like, health to get rid of it, I'd be kind of scary to play against. Because if you go overtime, that thing just connects to your leader. Boom. Like, I can picture that.
I also think the past couple months really hurt it because Train Bomb got buffed, was super meta. I mean, everyone runs trains to take out energy base because they know how broken that is. And then on top of that, Super X was dominating for months, which outranges it. So just an easy takeout for the Super X. So, but I do feel like with certain specific meta shifts, I really think Markalite Cannon could creep its way into more play. But as it is right now, it'd just be like C tier behind like Mechagodzilla probably.
Yeah, that's right.
Emba base, I'm probably going to put it right in front of Markalite. It's got the same issues as the helicopter base, except it's tankier. And if they do stack up and stall on something, it can be very, very annoying. But most of the time, they're going to get train bombed or Biolantes in the match. So it's really depending on like very specific matchups to function. So I still think it's more C tier.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Normal Embas are D tier in my opinion. Just run Emba base, right? Is that your opinion?
Yeah. Oh, no, 100%. Just because, like, I mean, like you're saying, that 1% chance you don't have nothing to take out the Emba spawner, you're going to have to deal with that the whole game, and it is really annoying. I mean, I know we can all relate. We did play that one person that probably used the Emba spawner, and they just connect. They just start going to work on you. I mean,
yeah.
It definitely is really annoying playing against it.
It'll catch you off guard every once in a while, and you'll be like, ah, shit, I kind of misdeployed into it, and now it's, like, stalling on us. But as far as, like, normal Embas goes, it's, like, it just takes them way too long to kill anything. By the time, you know, if they're stun locking something, one of your assisted units is going to take them out, so.
Yeah.
Missile Strike, D tier, right? It's just,
100%.
It's not Train Bomb, and even if it was, I mean, it just sucks, dude. Like, forget Train Bomb for a second. I deployed this thing at, like, level 20 to finish off a match, like a sliver of health, and it didn't finish it off. I was mind blown. Like, it was level 20. I know it wasn't 30, but, like, 20 is still, like,
oh, yeah, it's just
like,
doing damage.
give me the freaking win. Like, come on, man. Like, this thing is useless for 5 cost. I had an idea where it's like the opposite of Train Bomb, where it does double damage to flyers. I think that would be a step in the right direction for it. It still might need like a damage boost or even a cost drop, but it is really useless as far as like high tier play goes.
Yeah, you'll never see unless they do something about the cost of it in general. Even like you said, if they do a rework, that would definitely help it. I mean,
yeah,
just something to it.
I'll put it above Gigan, but I mean, it's just like, I mean, Giant Octopus is for sure the worst unit in the game, but
hands down.
Yeah, missiles ain't too far behind. Psychic Chorus is next. I think we can all agree, even after the nerf, it's probably still S tier for you, right?
Easily, man.
I still want to put it above Dimension Tide. It is that good. And it really makes me think, I really wonder what the current Psychic Chorus after 2 nerfs is compared to the OG Psychic Chorus that nobody used. Like, nobody used the 4-cost Psychic Chorus, if you remember that. Like, not one person.
I miss those days, man.
So, yeah, I mean, heals are kind of just taken over. They're really annoying. They're so necessary, especially if you're running like a 4-star leader. Like, not having Psychic Chorus to help you is just like asking to get train bombed on, which is like the worst experience ever. And yeah, I mean, it's just broken. It pairs with Mothra Leo super well, which is a unit that many people run. Usually the meta in this game is to stack units together to fight together, which Psychic Chorus really likes because it just drops on all of them. And I'm sure you can pretty much say exactly the same thing. It's just a very, very good utility piece.
Yeah, I think the thing's super strong. Even with the nerfs, like you're saying, that still really didn't do anything. But I might say something a little controversial here. But personally, I think it's super broken on how it heals the leader. I feel like that should never be a thing, just because when you play against some hype player, like hype people, and you don't have it yourself, and they're able to just heal themselves back up. Wait,
I agree.
Like, for example, if you play against like a high tier whale, like let's say you do all that work, you build a push, you take him like literally all his health away, he cancels you out, heals himself back up, so you did all that for nothing in a way.
It's disgusting. 100%, bro. Just say it's disgusting. Like, these units are higher level than mine. Okay, like I can work around that. But then it has a higher level heal. Nah, like come on, dude. Like I cannot fight into over-leveled units with an over-leveled Psychic Chorus. It is just not possible. So yeah, it's annoying, but I mean, it's better. I would prefer if Psychic Chorus was used rather than like not used like before. I'm happy these effect pieces are being included in the meta, but it almost feels like they are just a necessity on most teams. So I just, you know, I would like to see it be a little more niche.
Yeah, no, for sure. One thing I will note into is that the amount of work it does put in for just being a 1-star unit is the crazy part to me. How good it is for being a 1-star.
Super good. I think it does take a little while to get the heal higher, but once you get it to like 30, 25, or 20 even, it's gonna do its job.
Yeah.
Next is Stealth Bomber, D tier. Why would we waste time? Put it right behind Showa Gigan. Do you think Showa Gigan's better than Stealth Bomber?
Personally, I do.
Okay, I do too. So, I mean, that's the end of that conversation. And then lastly, on the tier list, we got Train Bomb, which... Do you think Train Bomb is S tier? I'm leaning towards... I always put it in front of Energy Base because it shuts it down, which makes it better. But what do you think about it?
So, I'm kind of flippy with this one. I almost want to put an S tier just because the value you get out of it. Kind of like Psychic Chorus, you can kind of just play them whenever without really a con to it. I mean, it's only an upside to it just because it's so low cost. You can play it and you're kind of guaranteed always something out of it. There's not really a bad play when you do either one. So I kind of feel like that value alone kind of makes it S tier, but
maybe I'll put it above Hedora in front of behind Super X. The only thing about Train Bomb is when you are running into, like, my current really meta team is I'm running Batra, Leo, Rodan, like just super scummy, like when I really just want to be like, all right, screw you guys, I'm just gonna beat everyone right now. Yeah. And and then Psychic Chorus as well in that deck. And Train Bomb is not gonna dent those things at all. And then if I'm not running Energy Base, it's literally useless. So just for those particular reasons, I still think it's solid. The damage is really high for 3 cost. I'm happy with putting it in like middle of A, but yeah, it definitely shuts down a lot of my energy base decks. Like my Mothra deck just can't really function with Train Bomb taking out the energy base, so it's a really good.
Super good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Super good.
And that is going to conclude our tier list. Let's give a round of applause for Comics. Made it all the way here. It's probably pretty long. Probably didn't have too much water in between. I know I did, but throats are getting quite parched. But we're happy. I'm happy we're able to get out the this information to you guys. I think Comics is a fantastic player. If you wanted to say he was better than me, I wouldn't scoff at it. I said I was better than him a while ago, but probably struck a nerve with him. But I really think this guy is easily one of the best players in Godzilla Battle Line, and you should totally check out his channel. I'm going to leave a link in the description. He did his first voice reveal a couple days ago, or maybe a week ago. And I look forward to seeing more awesome ranked videos from you. So thank you for stopping by.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, thank you for having me on. It was always fun, man. It's always fun. So appreciate this, bro. This was fun.
Yeah, it was. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. It was fun to get other people's opinion on tier list. Usually I'm just sitting here talking to myself into the wall for an hour, so it was cool. Thank you guys for watching. I'll let you guys go. It's been a while. I don't know what the next video is. I think the next video is going to be Kiryu Showcase, but that thing is draining me, you guys. Like, it is hurting my soul. So we'll see. I could drop another video before that, but I promise the Kiryu Showcase is coming. Thank you for watching. TS Dragon is out of here. Remember to subscribe to Comics. Big help on this tier list, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.